Okay, and we are now recording. So welcome everyone to our weekly DNS call. I just flip briefly to my slides to just remind you all what the theme is this week. So the theme of the week is going to be about DNS abuse, and as we were just chatting before the call proper started, with Peter is going to make particular reference to the work of the first.org's DNS abuse SIG. So that'd be so interesting to hear. And then after that, as always, we will talk about some of the recent developments in the news, some signposts and forthcoming events. Also some things with sort of deadlines over the next few weeks, which a few have sort of cropped up over the last week or so. And I'll remind you of some of our planned calls for the beginning of September, and then time permitting, we'll sort of pick up on any other business that anyone else may have. So that's the plan. Hopefully that's in line with people's expectations. So with that in mind, I will stop sharing. Peter, thanks for joining. Appreciate that.
Thank you for
What was
having me.
your all matters DNS abuse?
Yeah, let me just start the presenter view. And sorry, should be better prepared for this. Right, and where did they put the share button? Oh, okay. Okay. So yeah, as I say, thank you for having me. I wanted to give a quick update about well, a refresher for some of the work that the DNS Abuse SIG, or Special Interest Group at First, has done, and also some of the work that we're doing at the moment, and sort of almost complete, like 90% sort of ish, and a couple of other little updates that yeah, and there's a question I want to ask at the end, but I'll wait until that. So yeah, this is the DNS Abuse SIG. We are the, oops, sorry. Oh, God. Right, here we go. Yes, this is the Forum of Incident Responders and Security Teams. If you're not familiar with it, it's basically a kind of meta cert. It's all the different incident response teams, certs and CSerts from around the world, and other people. I'm a liaison member myself. I'm not a member of an incident response team, so you can join as an individual, but it's mostly teams from. It's an amazing organization. So first.org, if you're not familiar with it. There's also a lot of special interest groups covering lots of different topics, AI and human factors in security, and standards and all sorts. And I'm the the co-chair of the DNS Abuse SIG, which we focus on well, DNS abuse, and trying to provide a common language, and also tools and resources and all sorts for people who are researching, or stakeholders in DNS abuse. I'm also the DNS Abuse Ambassador for First, so which is always funny because it sounds like I'm promoting DNS abuse, but actually I'm supposed to be representing First in topics of DNS abuse at different events around the world and stuff. So yeah, about a year and a half ago, we published what we're calling the DNS Abuse Matrix. A lot of you may be familiar with this already, but just to refresh your memories, it looks like this. This is just a kind of a snapshot of part of it. We call it a matrix because there's 3 tables, one for prevention, mitigation, and detection of DNS abuse. And for each type of DNS abuse, and I think we have something like 15 or 19, it's in the next slide, I've got a number, and a bunch of different stakeholders, and it says, is this stakeholder involved? Like, if you experience this kind of DNS abuse, if this is happening or something you're looking into, then who can help you out? Who's a stakeholder? Yeah, so we have the 21 different DNS abuse techniques, which I think is probably the most comprehensive list, a list that I've seen. We spent a long time figuring it out, and I think probably there's maybe 1 or 2 that could be joined together or split up. but we also have 15 different stakeholders, and there's the 3 tables, and there's altogether it's 9 pages for the matrix itself. There's a big PDF that's available for download. There's going to be URL at the end of this presentation, which I'll share on the mailing list later on if anybody wants. Yeah, so it's pretty useful on its own for anybody, especially for incident responders. It's kind of made from the point of view of incident responders, but also it gives a good overview of the different who's involved in it, and what kind of DNS abuse techniques there are out there. So I've listed them here. I'm not going to go through them all, but we've got DGAs, domain name compromise, lame delegations, DNS cache poisoning, DNS rebinding, etc., etc. There are some that we haven't looked at. We've kind of come from the point of view of DNS abuse, which incident responders are going to be involved in. So I think there's maybe some sort of policy things that might not be listed there, and yeah. But this is, again, I think a pretty solid list of an overview of the different things that can come up. Also, here's the list of stakeholders. Again, we were, we had a lot of discussion about what the list of stakeholders should be, and like whether we should list ICANN on its own there as a separate, because it's kind of a unique organization, and some other things about government and things like this. But this is the list that we came up with, and it's pretty comprehensive, I think. So if you're looking into prevention, detection, or mitigation of DNS abuse, hopefully this will help tell you who you can get in touch with. So what we're working on at the moment, as a kind of supplement to this, the matrix is kind of a fancy word, but yeah, is advice for stakeholders. One thing that came up quite frequently was people saying, okay, well, I can contact my local ISP or my sysadmin or something, but they might not know really what to do. So we decided to put together a list of bits of advice for all the different kinds of DNS abuse that you can then, as an incident responder or incident operator, you can contact them and say, hey, look, can you look at this? This is what you might want to do. This is how you might be able to find out more information. This is what you might be able to address to be able to stop it in the future, these kind of things. We've been working on, we want to work on the 3 areas: the detection, mitigation, and prevention. But we've only started on 2 of them so far, which is detection and prevention. We are in the middle of it. We've generated quite a lot of text so far. I think we have, 30 pages of advice for detection and 13 pages of advice for prevention. So there's a lot of stuff there. Things have kind of been a bit slow lately. Part of the reason has been to do with our meeting times and things, and just general, there's lots of people, everybody has something going on. But it's been, there's a lot of stuff there. So I think the next step is to kind of go through everything and like consolidate it. I've been offline as well for a few months. I've been away from everything, and I'm kind of getting more involved again, and hopefully gonna spend a lot of my time going through this and like produce a copy of this. So hopefully, I don't really want to give a timeline, but maybe before the end of the year. I don't know. We'll see. I don't ever hold me to that, please. So as you can see, this document is intended to hold an entry-level overview of details which can help operators and researchers detect incidents of DNS abuse. And obviously that's changed for prevention and will be for mitigation. Mitigation, we haven't started yet. It seems like detection and prevention are probably the 2 most important areas that need to be looked at, or the most useful at least. So yeah, this still a lot that we need to do. The first, one of the big things is obviously start the mitigation advice. So we haven't even started the document. One of the other things was we felt like if we had started on the other documents first, then we'd at least come up with a kind of structure that would be useful to see like to use for the mitigation one. Also, again, I think I'm going to try and take the lead here in editing and incorporating the notes and edits, because there are a lot of them, and some of them are quite old, and I think we just need to kind of go through. I was saying to Andrew the other day that, or someone, I think it was Andrew, that what I might do is go through and sort of put a first pass, and then, because it's easier for people to tell you what's wrong. People much prefer pointing out exactly how to fix things rather than actually, putting something up them for themselves. So if I go through and just make a lot of mistakes, then hopefully that will prompt people to tell me what I need to fix or what needs to be fixed. It has been a massive collaborative effort, I have to say. We have 50 or 60 people in the SIG. There's not, I mean, I don't know, maybe half of those are active, or less than half, but as is normal for these kind of volunteer groups. But there have been, I don't know, 15 people, 20 people maybe overall, who've actually contributed towards this. So even every little bit helps, and it is a completely volunteer-led. So volunteer-led and volunteer effort. Also, we need to publish it. This is probably going to be as a PDF, because it's the most useful format for being able to share this kind of information. Being able to kind of just send an email to someone saying, hey, look at this bit. But I think that this is the kind of information which would be well served by a wiki, because it, as you can see, I think, hang on, from this this example here, on the left-hand side, I don't know if you guys can see this, but there is the table of contents, or the index. And under, for example, DNS server compromise, there's just the definition so far. But then I think I don't know what the section is above there, but we've got a lot of different, it's much more detailed, because some people have a bit more knowledge in that area and they spent more time on it, or, for various reasons, other bits are a bit more fleshed out. So it'd be good to have this kind of published, and then as a wiki, allow people to contribute somehow. Again, this is all very much in progress, but it's all kind of coming together. It's at the point where we have enough that's going to be useful to share with people. Yeah, so we have a few other updates as well that we've been working on since then. The DNS abuse techniques matrix itself has been published as a MISP Galaxy. So if you're importing information into MISC, then it's you should be able to assign events and categorize stuff according to our list of stakeholders and DNS abuse event technique types. And it's also been STIC's event type vocabulary has been created. So again, that should help with standardizing information exchange if you want to use this kind of thing. I think there might be a couple of other options available if you're exchanging information about DNS abuse events, but ours is available as well now. We also have a Japanese translation from JP-Cert. I have to say, Shoko Nakai in particular has been amazing. JP-Cert in general has their members of FIRST, and Shoko is one of our long-standing members, and she and her team have created the Japanese translation and this incredible Markdown version of it, which honestly has opened my eyes to what Markdown could do. I did not know it was possible to do have such complex documents created from Markdown. I'll show you a little screenshot of that and what was generated in a minute. But that's not available yet. We have a bit of a logistical issue with GitHub repositories and copying things over to FIRST, and access rights and things like that, which we're kind of working through at the moment. Also, another big thing is that we played around with the meeting times. Originally, we had meeting times which was every two, I think it was when I joined, it was every month. And then we switched to every 2 weeks. But because we have people from all over the world, we have people on the West Coast, East Coast, Europe, and and Asia. So it was tricky to try and find a time which was suitable to everybody. It's basically an impossible problem to solve, I think, is the conclusion I've come to, and probably the conclusion lots of people have already come to. So what we tried to do was have alternating meeting times. The first 2 weeks of the first two alternating Thursdays of the month, it was 12 o'clock UTC. And then the second, the, the other, every 4 weeks, it was 9 p.m. Oh no, hang on. It was something appropriate for West Coast. And one of them followed daylight savings, and one of them didn't. And one of them was every 2 weeks, and one of them was just the first and the second, or the second and the fourth. So it was very complicated, and nobody really knew what was going on. Unfortunately, it didn't really work out, despite our best efforts. So what we've decided to do is go back to the least worst option, which is 9 p.m. JST, which means that it doesn't follow daylight savings. So it will shift for half of the SIG members at some point, well, in the near future, I think. But it seems to be, roughly workable. It's early for some people, it's late for Japan, but it's fine for me. It's 1 o'clock in the afternoon at the moment. So I'm happy, but it wasn't my suggestion, so there's no bias there, I promise. Anyway, yes, we've shifted around the meeting times and playing around with them. So for anybody interested in joining it, that's our current times. What else? Yes. So this is the markdown version. You can see it's quite a complicated setup, with the markdown files and a bunch of subdirectories. But this was done by someone on Shoko's team in JPSet, and this is what it looks like at the end. And it's got like a left-hand navigation menu, and the matrix itself has, this is not a great screenshot because there's one which has got like the cells where it's got like tooltips where you can hover over, and it's really quite quite impressive. And I think we're going to switch to that as that kind of main source of truth for generating new versions of the matrix. Yeah, so I mean, that's pretty much it. I did want to just kind of refresh people's knowledge of, or put this back into people's minds that this is what we're working on. I think the advice for stakeholders is something that is going to be very important in the future. I don't think there's anything really that exists that I know of that is as comprehensive as what we're aiming to provide. And we do welcome people from any we welcome people from outside FIRST. So if you're not a member of FIRST, then you're welcome to apply. The process is that if someone's a member of FIRST, they automatically get accepted into the SIG. So if your company has an incident response team who's in FIRST, then you can probably get in pretty easily. But also, if you apply from outside FIRST, then we just forward your application to the mailing list, and if anybody has any objections, then we discuss it. It doesn't often happen, but occasionally it does. We are focused on people who are in operational roles and researchers. So if you're sort of in management or policy, then perhaps this isn't the right SIG for you. And I'm not sure that there's much that unless you're kind of technical, then that not much benefit for those people. Yeah, there's a list of resources here. So again, I will share these slides later on, so that the links will be there if anybody wants. And these a link to these slides themselves. And that is pretty much it. So if anybody has any questions.
Did you want to talk about blockchain-based DNS first, or did you want to come back to that?
Well, I think, did I not put, I thought oh yes. I thought I might pause for questions here to talk about the first and the work we're doing, and if anybody has any questions about the stuff that that we've been doing.
Okay. Well, in that case, anyone got any questions, pop them in the chat if you haven't done so already, or raise your virtual hand and you can sort of unmute and ask, which is even better. But whilst you're thinking, a couple of questions. So Vicky has evidently tried to join first from a couple of comments. I think, Vicky, you put in the chat, and also to contribute comments.
In the chat, because I don't want to be bitching about FIRST. I think this is a great document, and Peter's not in charge, presumably, of the FIRST process. So.
Were you applying to join as a liaison member?
I don't remember, honestly. It was a long time ago, and I just eventually gave up.
Well,
I think I got a response that since we weren't like a national computer response team at ISC was inappropriate, something like that.
Ah, okay. Well, I can certainly put you in touch with the right people. As ambassador for DNS abuse at first, part of the thing I'm supposed to do is you know, help with things like this. So send me an email. I'll see if I can help you out, or we can have a chat offline sometime, or you know, outside of this meeting. If you're still interested in joining. Also, if you're interested in joining first DNS abuse SIG itself, as I hope I explained this, that you can just apply from outside of first completely. So yeah.
So how
So
does one do that? It sounds like there might be a few people who are interested in that.
Yeah, so there's a link here to the homepage for the DNS abuse SIG, which I hope is on the screen now. No, it's not. Hang on. Let me just. Oh, did it stop sharing?
no, it's still sharing.
Okay, so this can you see the DNS abuse SIG homepage here now?
Yeah, it's got mission and goals and deliverables and so
Yeah.
on.
Okay, so this is our homepage, and at the bottom of the page is a request to
Is it
join.
visible if you're not logged in?
Yeah. This is a public page. It's just oops, sorry, clicked the wrong thing there. Yeah, so this is an overview of the SIG itself, what we've published, and some other information about it. And this is, if you want to join, just click the request to join, and it will take you to this. I think you have to set up an account maybe on the first portal, but anybody can do that. Yeah, so go ahead and click apply if anybody's interested. And yeah, so you could just Google first DNS abuse SIG, or there will be a link on this page. Hang on.
Spells, Peter, you could just email DNS abuse SIG at first.org.
Yes.
And, see what take it from there, basically.
Yeah, maybe. I'm not sure about the permissions on that mailing list. I don't know if things need to be approved or something. I don't really have access to the admin of the mailing list itself, because I think the IT guys take care of that. But I'm not. I think it might be just members only. I'm not sure.
Okay.
I haven't tried it for a while. Yeah, but you can email me peter.lowe@first.org, or just pgl@yoyo.org, or Twitter or whatever, and we can continue from there. So yeah, I think that answers your question as well, Eric. Yeah. Is that answer you everything you need to know, Vicky?
Oh yeah, thanks.
Great.
I'm applying. Hopefully I get in.
Eric, you're unmuted. Did you want to come in?
Oh, I'm just saying that, yeah, I'm applying. I'll try to get in.
Cool. Okay. I'll look forward to people's applications. As I said, I've kind of been off for a few months, and just a couple of weeks ago, kind of started resurfacing, so I can look at things myself as well as they come in. Well, thank you, David. Yeah, port 53 non-DNS usage. Yeah, not quite, unfortunately. Yeah, I wouldn't say that's really DNS abuse. That's maybe just poor practice. Right, yeah.
AWS wanted to contribute some text on that topic. You'd give it due consideration.
Yeah,
Peter.
yeah, absolutely. I think at some point we're going to do like another version. At the moment, it's like incremental changes to the matrix where we're just making small things. We're not like introducing new categories or merging anything. I think at the moment, at some point, we'll do like a version 2 where there'll be more significant changes. There's one or two things which are on hold until we get to that point, where we can make sort of breaking changes, kind of thing. That's fairly far off, I think. Yes, we so First and Morga are partners of a sort that, you know, strategic partners or something like this. So yes, we definitely communicate with them and are in touch with them. They're well. I think I did a presentation on this at Morg last year in Dublin. I miss it this year because, you know, I was off. But yeah, so it's good. So right, yeah. As I said, one last thing, which which I wanted to bring up, which is a sort of like very nebulous question, topic, or whatever, but it's been going through my mind quite a lot lately, which is to do with blockchain domains. So I know that a lot of people's opinions of blockchain domains is pretty negative or skeptical, or you know, that they're kind of dismissive of how blockchain domains are progressing and what use they're going to be to the internet, and you know, they're kind of like, oh, it's never going to work out, which is honestly was my instinctive reaction for quite a while as well. But I don't think that they're going away. I think that what's happened is that there's a sort of new generation of techies who've come along and have created this system that they have, they're pouring a lot of energy into, and they really believe in for one reason or another. They think it's a solution to problems, existing problems, or they think that there's some, you know, intrinsic value to it that they are willing to put a lot of effort into. And it's been fairly consistent over the past few years, to be honest. And I think some of the research that the DNS Research Foundation has produced shows that it's just getting more and more. Now, it's easy to be dismissive of it, I think, because well, partly because we can see the obvious issues that they're going to run into and problems that they're going to have, but also because it's been a long time since a lot of us were that enthusiastic about new technologies. But I remember back when I was a teenager and I was getting, like, when I first discovered the DNS, I you know, I fell in love with it immediately, and I became as enthusiastic as these people now are about blockchain domains. So the thing that I was thinking was that they, you know, looking through the initiatives that I've seen so far with like .eth domains, what was it, the one from today, Andrew, .top or something like this? No, hang on, what was it you said?
Ton, T-O-N.
Ton, that's it, yes, .ton domains. I've had a look at what they're producing, and they're very much focused on the happy path of everything working out, but they haven't really. I think there's a lot of people there who don't have the experience or the knowledge or the background to have policies and procedures in place which will deal with the unhappy paths. For instance, copyright claims, or you know, abusive domains, or illegal domains, or domains which are being used for all these different kinds of DNS abuse that we went through in our DNS abuse matrix. I think are things which a lot of people working on blockchain domains haven't really thought about very well. So I think that we should, from the DNS community, get involved somehow. And it might be something that isn't particularly or immediately attractive as a proposition, but I think we could help. I think there's a few things about this that would be good. Yeah, Georgia, I'll get to your question in a sec, but so first of all, I think that we could help people avoid some of the obvious mistakes. I know when I was looking through some of the policies on one of these blockchain domain things, I was like, no, that's not going to work. No, that's probably going to problem. No, I've seen that. Someone tried that before and it didn't work, kind of thing. And yeah, I think that we could, as a community, help shape the way that the blockchain domains are progress. And I think overall, it would just be a good thing for the world. Like, you know, we'd be able to help keep the internet safer. They're not going away. I'm pretty convinced myself. So anyway, sorry, Georgia, what was your questions?
Hi, Peter. Thanks for your presentation. Georgia Osborne from the DNS Research Federation. I actually wrote the first paper, I think the academic paper on blockchain domain names. I feel like, well, so when we first looked at this, there wasn't much evidence of abuse on blockchain domain names. It's very difficult to look at evidence You know, we spoke to TRM Labs, we spoke to quite a few blockchain-based organizations looking at this. So there isn't much evidence right now, but I do think it's important that, you know, we help, because there's lots of good initiatives in the DNS industry that if the blockchain domain name world is going to kick off and, you know, continue, that they could learn from us. And I also think that probably we can look at them as well in certain aspects. But just in terms of blockchain domain name abuse, it'd be great to see a study looking at what the current state of affairs are around blockchain domain name abuse, whether there is any. I know that one of the things that we found was that lots of them were registered with like spaces, so that if you clicked on it in a browser that would accept it, so for example, Opera or Firefox or whatever, then it would, you might think that it was a specific website, but actually it had spaces in it. And so there's certain things that mean that it would sort of blockchain domain name abuse would be a problem that might not be a problem in the DNS world. So I think that could be looked at. But yeah, I think there's room for an exploration or a study there. And I completely second everything that you've said. I think that you're completely right. But I mean, from what I've seen, the numbers of registration seem static, but the numbers of providers are going up. So it's becoming more saturated, which I think was predictable. But it, you know, certain ones will win out, and that is just the game of the market. But thank you so much for your presentation. And yeah, thank you.
Thanks. Yeah, it's like we're all getting old now. There's a new generation of people coming around, and in 10 or 20 years' time, they're going to be wanting to use the technologies that they've developed. So maybe that will be DNS. Maybe it will go away, but I don't think it looks like that at the moment. Yeah, and I think it's like you said about right now, there isn't a lot of DNS abuse. And I think that means that the people who are working on blockchain domains haven't had to deal with a lot of the problems which the DNS industry has in the last 4 years or however long it's been. There's a lot of techniques that have kind of come up because abuse has become more widespread, and then the people who are fighting abuse kind of trying to come up with techniques to fight it, and then the attackers it's the cat and mouse, the age-old cat and mouse game. So I think as blockchain domains get more popular, there will be more DNS abuse. Hey, Josh.
Hang on. All right, there we go. So yeah, thank you for the presentation. I agree with Georgia. I did read her study, the paper when that was published, and I agree with you. Overall, we need to bring more awareness. I think we, sort of the DNS classic community, has stayed silent, sort of somewhat on purpose, shy away from this topic. And like you, I have, you know, younger like nieces and nephews and kids. They are finding false information on blockchain DNS because it's being propagated as sometimes mixed in with financial schemes to say, hey, you can buy this domain now, it's yours, you can make money. There's some financial aspect to it. And because there's a lack of real information, so it runs, I think from my point of view, I think there's a lot of false information that we probably need to speak up and say, this is how it really works on a technical level, rather than just a bunch of YouTube videos saying, hey kids, sign up for this now, you'll make money on this blockchain domain later. So I think in addition to the high-end technical studies, I'm not sure any of us is qualified, but to figure out some kind of a mass, more layman approach to explain to a regular person what is a blockchain domain. Because my father-in-law had asked me about it, and I struggled to really explain it, rather than it's bad, don't use it. And he's like, well, how do you know it's bad? That's exactly what that guy on YouTube said, that what you would say.
That's exactly right. I think because of this kind of like skeptical attitude from a lot of people in the traditional DNS world, we don't really look into what's going on and what's happening, and we don't really know that much about it, which is natural. You know, there's a lot of technologies that come and go, and you know, when I was a programmer, it was always the next framework that was kind of going to solve all the problems that the last one didn't. But in the end, there were a few that stuck around, and then they had to solve all the problems that the previous set very much did. So what I'm trying to sort of suggest is that we try and drop our guard a little bit, and go and have a look at what's out there and see how maybe we could help. Join some mailing lists, maybe. See what implementations there are out there, and what I think there's a lot of low-hanging fruit as well. Some basic policies to put in place that are going to solve, the 80% of the issues. But like, from the DNS, sorry.
So I was going to say, it would seem like if there was the equivalent of a BCP almost on sort of DNS abuse, or reducing DNS abuse rather, that unless I'm missing something, there's probably no downside to sharing that. And then the sort of more forward thinking of these various schemes may well adopt some or all of those things, and that will be to their benefit if they do. Some of them, some of them I'm more skeptical with. They might argue that some of these aspects are features, not bugs.
Yeah.
And be less interested in dealing with them, but that's okay. But yeah, it would seem like the right thing to do to say, well, here are some issues we've learned about. Here are some ways to deal with them. You might want to try these. They seem to work for us. That seems like a good and neighbourly thing to do. If they ignore it, well, at least you've tried.
Yeah. I'm gonna have a look and see if there's any opportunities for myself to kind of reach out to people and, I don't know, do the presentation of the DNS abuse matrix and say, hey, look, there's 21 different kinds of DNS abuse that incident responders have to deal with, at least. Have you thought about all of these different ones? I maybe just kind of poke them a little bit. But in general, it's a kind of like, we've, like, what was it Brett said? Sorry. All of us oldies, I think, have been holding our breath, hoping it was going away, which is so true. We're kind of like, oh God, no, these young kids, they don't know what they're doing. It's not, But then, like Georgia said, it doesn't have to be useful or practical. It doesn't have to be 100% perfect for it to have people putting energy into it, and for it to succeed through the amount of, the fact that these people believe in it. Because that's what happened when we were younger, right? This is the stuff that we worked on I worked on 25 years ago, was not necessarily perfect, but in that time since then, things have been solved. A lot of updates have been made, and we've kind of, whippersnappers. Right. Yeah. So I don't know. We don't want to just chuck them a quarter and tell them to get off our lawn. Like, I think that we should try and help people out. I think also we have an opportunity to help shape things as well. We might be thinking to ourselves, oh, God, this is crap. This is never going to work. But why not say, maybe you could do it like this? Getting involved is, I think, beneficial to both sides. And overall, it's going to make the internet a safer place for people to live. When it comes to things like, child abuse online and massive phishing, fraud scams, and people losing money, hospitals getting shut down from ransomware attacks, things like this, like, how many of the blockchain domain organizations or efforts have thought about protective DNS? Probably none of them, because it's not a problem at the moment, like Georgia pointed out. But I think as it gets more popular and as more people use it, and as the new generation takes over from us, then it will become just something that they'll need to think about, and perhaps we could prepare people a bit better than they are at the moment. So yeah, that was my one last thing.
Certainly think, Peter, others may take a different view, but as perhaps the voice of the millennials on this call, I think we appreciate you handing down your advice before you move on.
Yeah, something like that. Yeah, we have to type it out and fax it to them.
Absolutely. Okay, well, maybe this is a topic we'll come back to. Perhaps people sleep on it, see what you think. But I do think there's maybe value in at least, at least making the offer. I suspect some of the more forward thinking of these sort of different initiatives may well react positively. Some, like I said earlier, I think might regard some of these issues as features, not bugs. Who knows? Yeah, things like the inability to filter illegal content. I think absolutely some of them would regard that as a feature rather than a bug, but we'll see. So I think it's a good plan to at least offer up the advice and information and see what happens if there's a willingness to do that. Okay.
Thanks, Andrew.
So let's hope this is the start of a conversation. I think it is perhaps the point to leave it. So thank you for raising that, Peter, and also for the update on the first SIG, and hopefully there'll be some additional participants in that to make the scheduling the next sort of sequence of calls even harder, to find a convenient time slot for you all. Brilliant. Okay, well, let's just briefly move on. So thank you, Peter, for doing that, and look forward to people's thoughts when you've had a chance to sleep on it. Yeah, come back to it certainly next week. Right, so just a quick reminder, some of the things you would have had in your inbox this morning. Oh, sorry, if you're on the, don't press the right button, on the mailing list in terms of from the news. So the one at the top of the page there, which I hadn't highlighted because I hadn't thought about it, but I should have done. Speaking of blockchain-based naming systems, there's a sort of new game in town with .ton, or .ton, I'm not sure how to pronounce it, TON. Which and there's, if you read the article, it talks about linking it to a crypto wallet and various other things. So I'm not. Those are all the sorts of things which make me a tad nervous about them, because in my experience, most of the crypto wallets have been hugely problematic. But we'll see. But anyway, there's another one of those. So to add to .ens and various others already out there. There's also a bunch of stuff this week certainly around post-quantum cryptography. So there's a nice piece from Akamai on first steps to take to prepare for quantum advantage, as it's titled. There's also a piece from the UK's NCSC, and also this week IBM have pushed out a publication looking at NIST's first 3 quantum resistant algorithms. So some stuff there to read up on post quantum, which is definitely worth a look. And also a nice post on APNIC about protective DNS, one of the many meanings of PDNS, just picking up on one of the comments that I think Brett made in the chat earlier. So that's also I think worth your time if you have a moment. Obviously, as always, I won't go through all of these. You can read through them at your leisure. But just one to highlight, DigiCert has announced plans to acquire Vacara. You may recall, I think we had Steve Stadden came on to talk about Ultra DNS a number of months ago. That was spun out of Newstar about a year ago, and that's now in turn being brought up by DigiCert. And also there was a slightly lighter article. GT Bank had a website outage, and there was sort of the DNS was being blamed. It turned out it was actually they hadn't renewed their domain name registration, which is probably a bit embarrassing for whoever does their admin, but there you are. So sometimes it's not the technical stuff, it's the admin that can catch you out. Just see if there's anything else. Oh yeah, finally, just a couple of things on the bottom there. Echo reminder, they're doing a survey on the adoption of DNSSEC. I think I mentioned this a couple of weeks back, so if you haven't had a chance to do that, that's really easy. It only takes 5 minutes or less. Where I think they're trying to sort of understand what the barriers to adoption are. And then finally, Apparently it's the 20th anniversary of DNS OARC, and there's some commemorative apparel, even if I can speak properly, which are available online, of course, to mark the occasion. I'm sure it's extremely stylish, so worth a look on that as well. There's loads of other stuff in the news, less DNS relevant. Again, I won't go through all of that, but 3 things I'll highlight. Firstly, in case you missed it, third-party cookies, it seems, aren't going away after all, despite what you may have read about plans to phase them out on Chrome. If you use Signal when you're going to Russia, it's being banned in Russia. So be aware of that. I think they're trying to get some more proxies up and running to make it harder to stop it running. But there have been some security issues come to light on Signal over the last couple of months or so. So if you use Signal for its security properties, that's worth also reading up on if you've not caught up on that. And then finally, just a lighter moment, there's a piece looking at the proposed replacement for Concord, just sort of giving an update on where that was at in Politico, which I spied this week, which is absolutely nothing to do with anything else, but I thought it was quite interesting. Okay, so that's pretty much everything I'll touch on. As I say, you get the weekly headlines email. You've got that in your inbox already. If not, you'll find links to all of that post call. And then just on up and coming deadlines. I did a few to this, which I came across this week. So if you want to go to RIPE 89 and you're an academic, there is some funding available, but you've got until that's passed. Apologies. It might just be too late. Check on that if you want to go and see if that's a possibility, but that may have just passed. Perhaps more usefully, for RIPE 89, the deadline is coming up quite soon, 23rd of August, so you've got a few days to submit your presentations, and that's for the meeting in Prague at the end of October, so that's relatively soon as well. Also for the ICANN DNS Symposium, there's a call for presentations, deadline also later this month, 26th, which is not so far away. And the IGF, Internet Governance Forum, are gathering some video material. So again, if you want to contribute towards that, you've got till the end of the month. And then there's various other deadlines, but they're a bit further away, so I won't call those out specifically, but there's various bits and pieces. I think that's largely it. There's a domain summit London, which we touched on the call a week or so ago, which started today, right? So it runs through till Wednesday. But then the next main event is on the 30th. That's APNIC, runs into September, and then before we know it, we're at the ICANN DNS Symposium week, which is also not so far away as well. Okay, and then just a reminder, early part of September, we've got a number of interesting topics coming up, including I think that might be George and a colleague talking about DNS abuse league tables, as well as AI privacy and confidentiality. So it's a couple of sort of separate pieces from the DNS Research Federation, as well as Trust Checker as well. The following week, and then Michael's going to join us on the 16th to talk again about NIS2. As it's now, well, but then it will be roughly a month away from it needing to be brought into force in the various member states. So it's becoming quite imminent. So it'd be good to sort of catch up and just share some thoughts on that. And then various other things coming up as well. A reminder, I think I mentioned this last week, if you're going to be in Santa Marta for the DNS Symposium, the OARC Community Day, etc., then we won't have a call that week, but if you're there, we can maybe meet up in person on the Monday evening. And similarly, on the 4th of November, during the ITF 121 meeting in Dublin. Again, we won't have a call that day, but we can perhaps sort of meet up again in person there as well, rather like we did in Vancouver a few weeks ago. Right, I'll stop talking there as we've only got 5 minutes left, and see if anyone wants to raise anything else, or if there's anything in the chat that anyone wants to highlight as well. And thanks, I see Elijah put a link to the survey, which is great. So please do that if you've not done so on DNSSEC, the link in the chat. But anyway, I'll stop talking. Anyone got anything else you want to cover whilst we're on the call? And if you have, pop it in the chat or just unmute and speak, whichever's easier for you. There are a few comments on blockchain naming systems. I detect some skepticism, I think, from some of the comments in the chat, but as I say, we'll pick up on that maybe next week as well, to see if anyone's got any further thoughts on helping out, helping the youth out, and stopping them make the same mistakes that been made previously. Not seeing any typing at the moment.
I have a quick question for Peter, I think. I know AP Nick has like a day-long first workshop. I'm just wondering if you know if the DNS abuse work is any part of that.
Is that the meeting? Do you know, Vicky?
Excuse me?
Is that the meeting? The meeting coming up in Wellington?
Yes, yes.
I don't know. I'm sorry. I'm a little bit out of the loop at the moment. As I said, it's only been a week or two since I've sort of started re-engaging with everything.
So that's okay. Yeah, I'm going out there for the AP Nick, and I was just looking and wondering about the first day, but okay.
One of our co-chairs is Swapnil. Oh God, I've forgotten his surname now. Swapnil, and he's based in India, so he may be. He goes to a lot of these conferences. He may be there. Shoko is over in that side of the world, so also might be. But I don't know for certain. Sorry, Vicky.
Okay, well, if anyone's got any other information on the AP Nick, is it 57? No, 58. AP Nick 58. Well, let's see if I can find anything out. If so, I'll put that in a link with the notes post call, Vicky. Okay, last chance for anyone else with anything else you want to bring up. Right, not seeing any people unmuted or raised hands. Okay, in which case it's almost the top of the hour. So thank you everyone for joining as always. Have a fantastic week. Thank you, Peter, for bringing everyone up to date on the sort of the first SIG. That's good to hear, and hopefully that will set some people thinking about this newfangled blockchain naming system stuff. Let's do our bit for the youth. But with that, have a great week, everyone, and look forward to catching up same time next week. So speak to you all then. Bye, everyone.